The biggest mistake people make, they run too fast. Highly underrated exercise is walking. Having more muscle will increase your basal metabolic rate.
Hey, you're tuned into the Mike and Maddie Show, where we have casual conversations, breaking down science, and documenting our journey with content creation and entrepreneurship so you can learn how to improve your life. So in today's episode, we're once again joined by Dr. Jon Go. He's an ophthalmologist working in Southern California, and for the past 10 years or so has been deeply ingrained in nutrition, fitness, and self-improvement. Today's episode is all about exercise. Exercise is such a vital part of our longevity and our health and our well-being. So we talk about some of the science behind healthy exercising, what changes happen in the body, and different ways to think about fitness goals and how they align with our own life. So calm your mood, clear your mind, and enjoy the show.
Welcome back, Dr. Jon Go. Always a pleasure to have you here.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
Exercise.
Obviously, one side of the table looks like the exercise more than the other.
You can tell. We're just in sweaters. Yeah,
and that's why we wore the sweaters.
No, my biceps are like squeezed right now. Don't worry.
No, actually, you've been exercising a lot.
I don't exercise like you, though.
Oh, dude, 145-pound plate with your added to your pull-up is pretty good, man.
Yeah,
That's pretty solid.
I think it helps that I'm light, and I have a lot of years of rock climbing residually in my fingertips, my back.
Right.
So that's just like translated over the years.
Your forearm is strong too.
Yeah. So that's the kind of more the work I want to get into would be calisthenics, like body weight stuff for rock climbing or yoga. Both.
The first topic we should try is a simplified version for someone who is just getting started. Pretend that this person has no knowledge of what working out is whatsoever. How will we help them ease into this?
All right. At the gym, yes?
I guess
like someone who's
why would the gym be like the first thing that you think of with workouts?
I mean, I think it's just like the most accessible thing. It's like the easiest place where you'll be able to find resistance.
So it's about resistance.
It's about resistance. It's about training your body to be able to handle more weight. And to that end, it's, as long as you can work your whatever exercise you're doing, whatever resistance training you're doing, as long as you can work till failure, that's going to prompt your body to grow and to get stronger. But in general, I think it's natural to talk about lifting weights in the traditional sense, at LA Fitness or 24-Hour Fitness or what have you. Just because there's so much information out there about it too, and it's probably the easiest way, unless you have like a pull-up bar at home. But I do think we should talk about later on. We should talk about how, you could probably get by with just body weight calisthenics and get very strong, very strong. And I personally once I'm more settled down and stuff, I might move towards that because truthfully, between a one-arm push-up, a one-arm pull-up, and pistol squats, that's pretty much all you need, really, to build a really strong body.
So when you're doing calisthenics, it seems like isolation is more resistance. Like if you're putting all your body weight, I mean, that kind of makes sense. You're putting all your body weight on one limb as opposed to both.
Yeah. Yes and no. So I think there's something to be said about compound exercises versus the traditional isolation exercises of like bicep curls or tricep extensions and stuff. I think in general, someone who's new to weight training or resistance training should concentrate on compound exercises. So for me, I like to simplify my life. So I have a pull day, I have a push day, a pull day, and a leg day. And I basically just concentrate on those motions. So on my push day, it'll be like bench or something that's a push. On my pull day, it'll be weighted pull-ups like you or various types of pull-ups that get progressively harder. So as you know, like right now I'm working on the one-arm pull-up. So a lot of my training is based on achieving that goal and getting stronger to get to that goal, And then leg days, squats. I don't deadlift anymore because I kind of injured my back a while back, and I also just don't want to take the risk. But I do a lot of squats. Yeah.
What is a compound exercise versus an
Yeah.
isolated exercise?
Yeah. So a compound exercise is where multiple muscles are getting activated. So when I'm doing bench, my pectoralis is getting activated, but so are my triceps and back to some extent. When you're doing a pull, your back, your latissimus dorsi, and your rhomboids and everything are getting activated, but also your biceps. Versus a typical isolation exercise is just like a curl or like a tricep extension. And in general, I try to concentrate on compound exercises.
You said mostly for beginners, or why is that more? Is it better for a beginner? I assume it's just because they're working more muscle groups at once and they're building up muscle and strength all over the body, so that they can.
That's precisely right. Because if you're getting stronger as a whole, more muscle groups, you're going to be able to lift more in general. Like like let's just say you're doing a push exercise and you're getting strong, your chest is getting stronger as well as your triceps. Like those two things collectively are going to allow you to lift more in the future, rather than if you're just doing tricep extensions. That doesn't necessarily translate to benching more,
Right.
So I do think that that's part of the benefit of it.
Yeah. Cool. And I also really like how you differentiated the push and pull kind of exercises. I think a lot of people, when we think of the typical gym workouts, they separate them by muscle groups, which if you think about how they split the muscle groups up, they usually are by push pull. But I like that distinction because all the muscles in the body kind of have antagonistic counterparts. Like biceps, when your bicep is contracted, your tricep literally can't contract, right? Because they take up the same space.
Right.
And I think it's just the motor neurons themselves actually are wired in a way that the other one is deactivated when one is activated.
Yeah.
So I like that thinking of push and pull as opposed to biceps and back,
That's actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because we're tested on this in ophthalmology. So it's actually called Herring's law, where if you activate one muscle, the antagonist has to be inhibited. And there's also another law called Sherrington's law, but that has to do with how the eyes track and stuff. But that's exactly right. Yeah.
From a high level perspective, I can imagine people's goals for working out would be to look better, would be to perform better or get stronger, and then to just be healthier and possibly prolong your longevity.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the overlap between all three areas, and then if we know like the differences as well, let's get into those.
I like how you divided general health from that, because I think a lot of people have their own view of fitness, right? Like to look at a bodybuilder and like their view of health and fitness is probably very different from like an endurance athlete's, or like us from the medical perspective side of things. Personally, I think that a hybrid athlete is really the healthiest, because two things. One, after a certain age, and correct me if I'm wrong, but after a certain age, you just lose muscle, right? So like you see these like elderly folk in the gym who are still jacked, but that they're super duper jacked before. But that's, because you lose muscle as you get older, right? But you need muscle for your metabolism. You need muscle. You need weight bearing exercises to strengthen your bones and like avoid osteoporosis, right? Which is like, I don't know, hip fractures are like one of the leading causes of like admissions, right? In like the elderly population. But so you need strength training to build mass and muscle. But at the same time, a bodybuilder is not going to be able to run 10 miles or a marathon or a half marathon. But cardio, as the name suggests, is good for your heart. It's good for many things. It's good for your immune system. It's good for your lymphatic system, for your respiratory system, your cardiovascular system,
Your mental health.
your mental health. Yeah,
Well, that's not their goal,
right.
The bodybuilder's goal is not to perform, right? Or what is a bodybuilder? What is a hybrid athlete?
So I think a bodybuilder are like, what are they called? Form competitors or
Who are the people that like walk up on stage like a beauty pageant and they
Right.
like oil themselves up and they
Yeah.
flex? Like, what is that? What is that called?
That's bodybuilder.
That's bodybuilder, right?
Yeah,
Okay, that's what I
yeah,
thought. So then
yeah.
Competition.
bodybuilder is more looking at aesthetics, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Because they're rated on how they look.
Mm-hmm.
And then an athlete is more rated on how well they perform.
Right.
What is a hybrid athlete?
In my mind, a hybrid athlete is someone who prioritizes both strength training as well as endurance training. So they do both. And Nick Bear is like a really good example of this. That dude is like super jacked and he runs like ultra marathons, you know?
So it still doesn't include aesthetics. They don't care how they look. It's still
I think it's-
strength and endurance.
Yeah.
That's still performance though, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
gotcha.
it's more functional.
Who's Nick Barre?
He's so I haven't watched a lot of his stuff, but he has his own brand on YouTube and he runs like ultra marathons and Ironmans and stuff, but he initially started as I think like a bodybuilder or strength training of some sort. So he's like he has a lot of mass and he's like super tall, but he still runs all of these endurance races.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm getting a better idea of what we're going towards. So a lot of our audience, I think, falls into probably one of three buckets, if not all three buckets. First one would be a person who's a student or a professional or someone who's just looking for like, how much exercise do I need to get in per week to be healthy
Yeah.
and to be productive and continue doing what I'm doing, studying, working, whatever. What is like the minimal threshold? And then another bucket would be if maybe you're still in college or maybe you're playing athletics, maybe you're in intramural or you're just trying to have fun with your friends. What are some simple things that you can do to improve your endurance and your strength over time? If there's any science to this, what is like the most effective and efficient way to get that?
Yeah.
And then the third bucket would be like people who want to change the way they look. There's some self-esteem issues, confidence issues. Maybe they just want to get summer bod or they want to lose weight, you know?
Yeah.
So I see a lot of people falling into one of those three buckets.
Sure.
Not mutually exclusive, but
Okay.
let's kind of hit on one of those one at a time.
All right. What was the first bucket again? Let's talk about the
First one is someone who is not trying to be an athlete or a bodybuilder, but they understand that they understand that regular exercise is
Yeah.
good for your health. So what are like, I guess, best practices, best guidelines? How much exercise should I get? How much cardio should I get per day, per week, that sort of stuff?
There's an American Heart Association recommendation on the amount of cardio to get.
30 minutes, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
30 minutes a day? Okay.
30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. I think that running is probably the most efficient way to get aerobic activity, get your aerobic exercise in. But there are some people who can't run, joint issues or whatnot. So bicycling, swimming are all things, or even just speed walking, or walking on an incline. But I do think that getting the aerobic exercise in is really good for not just the heart, but like you said, Maddie, mental health. I know a lot of people in med school, I'm sure you guys know too, like just their main their activity of choice would be running because it's just the most efficient bang for your buck way to just
Yeah. So accessible. All you need is shoes.
yeah
You don't even need shoes.
You don't need shoes. Just
yeah
Well, we can talk about barefoot running. I think it's a whole other topic itself. But yeah, running is just the most accessible.
yeah
You can just go outside and run,
yeah
no matter the weather. You don't need a gym membership.
right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people feel the need to run really hard in in the short amount of time that they've separated out to train. But there's a whole idea. It's called zone training. And as you guys know, maffetone training, where you really want to be running at a conversational pace because that will over time lead to greater efficiency of your cardiovascular system. So the biggest mistake people make when they start to train for like a marathon or when they run is that they run too fast. And really, we need to just pare it back and just run at a conversational pace. And that makes it a lot more pleasurable too. If you're not dying for 30 minutes, then it's just an activity for you to kind of, I personally think through things that I've been putting off, like decisions and stuff, or listen to an audiobook. Yeah.
Okay, I love that. So to summarize, the biggest mistake that people do, the biggest mistake that people make when they start adapting a habit of running regularly, and running regularly means like 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, for a healthy threshold. The biggest mistake they make is that they try too hard. They try running too fast.
That's right.
They try going too hard. But if you actually run slower at a pace where you're able to talk and hold a conversation,
Right.
then that's actually better for your heart to adapt
Yes.
and over time get healthier. Is that
Absolutely.
kind of right? Okay.
Yeah, that's 100% right. Yeah.
So then it's great that if you go and run with someone like a partner or a friend, then you can just kind of chug along at that,
Right.
what is it, zone 2, you call it? Chug along at zone 2, have a conversation and then stick at it,
Right.
be consistent, and over time your heart health will improve.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I just remember that I tried running a lot, especially when I was in high school and college, and I was doing okay. And then my joints, my knees, my shins started hurting a lot more in med school.
Right.
So I was like looking for other ways to get the aerobic exercise. And I really liked biking. I really liked swimming, and I liked rowing. Those row machines are actually like really chill.
Yeah.
Just like sitting there with a podcast or something.
Yeah.
And then you said like stairs.
Stairs. Yeah. Stairs are really good too.
So you can just do stairs in your house even.
Yeah, you can.
Do you have any specific protocol in mind for stairs? Like any
Stairs.
laps or...
No, I did do a whole lot of Stairmaster when I was training to climb Mount Shasta. And at that time, it was just like I would just get on the Stairmaster all day. The stairs are nice because it's almost like not like a hybrid, but you are going to be strengthening like your whole sort of, like your legs, your
Right.
But what do I want to say? Oh yeah, to that end, like just avoiding injury. There's something called the 20% rule. So I know when I started to run, this was when I started taking running actually kind of seriously was during COVID actually. So during that time, I did the Goggins 48 and 48 challenge, and that's basically where like every 4 hours you run 4 miles for 48 hours.
What?
And it's just this challenge,
Okay. Damn.
We should do it this year. You guys want to do it?
That sounds insane.
What I was gonna say was like,
man.
at that time I wasn't a runner. Like I was running like maybe an hour or two a week, if that, or maybe just an hour a week. And then I like read his book, and I was like, man, let's just do this, And it just blew my mind that I was able to do it, and it just is testament to the fact that all of us are so much more capable than we believe. We're so much more capable than we think we are, So yeah, I ended up doing his challenge, and after that, and mind you, I ran really slow. I ran like 4.7 miles per hour, but I ran 50 miles in that 48-hour period,
Dang.
But ever since then, running has sort of just been something that I've kind of gone back to because I find that it helps me work through things because you're just focused on the next step.
So do you run in silence,
Yeah.
or do you listen to something?
So when I was training for the LA Marathon, I ran in silence. Yeah. But nowadays, half the time I run in silence, and half the time I'll listen to a podcast or I'll listen to an audio book. Right now, I'm listening to Goggins' second book. Yeah.
Is there any science to running in silence versus running listening to something?
There's a thought that running in silence is better for your mental toughness training.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're not distracting yourself, and you're kind of just learning to be present within yourself,
And you're not like depending on listening to something.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know if there's science in terms of the benefits of growing muscle for listening to things, but I know that there is science in like the whole dopamine reward pathway system for listening to music when you work out. And that has more to do with motivation than actual like building muscle.
That makes sense.
Where like if you're stacking dopamine things, like because working out and exercising itself does release dopamine. And if you're packing on like caffeine, like pre-workout before that, and also listening to music while you work out, then you're gonna like condition your body to only be able to work out under those conditions. And then when you remove them, you'll just have no motivation to actually go to the gym. So there's a different kind of science, I guess, about regarding motivation as opposed to building muscle, I guess.
Yeah.
From what I know.
Motivation with exercise is everything.
Yeah.
Like for a lot of people, just getting started, building that habit is so important.
Yeah. Why does lifting lead to you getting stronger? It's because of progressive overload. It's because you are exhausting your muscles to the point where they fail. And in response to that, your body not just builds more muscle to be able to handle that load, but it strengthens sort of the mind muscle connection. So like there's evidence that, a lot of the initial gains you get are just due to that pathway getting stronger and more efficient, the neuromuscular pathway, I mean. But so that's the science behind why you get stronger. So let's talk about how to get stronger. When you're doing a set, what is a set? A set is
a bunch of reps.
Yeah.
Predetermined?
Yeah. No, a set
Not
is
predetermined.
no, you're right. A set is a bunch of reps of a single exercise. And in general, you should always be trying to go to failure because those last couple reps of that exercise where you're struggling are the ones that are going to help make you stronger. It's thought that 10 sets per week of one muscle is minimum or optimal, I guess. There's some people who say 10. I personally go for 15 or 16. Like I try to do a push day twice a week and I'll do 8 and 8. So I would say between 10 to 16 sets of a muscle per week. And then there's the thought of, and then we have to figure out how many reps. So traditionally it's been thought that 3 to 5 rep range builds strength, 6 to 9 builds hypertrophy, and anything above that builds endurance and or is cardio. I think you'll get stronger from doing any of those rep ranges. Actually, bodybuilders do higher rep ranges, but the thought is getting to those reps that are very difficult for you. So it's just easier to get to those in the lower rep ranges because the weight is higher. So I guess I personally do aim for about 8. I always aim for like a weight that allows me to just get to 6 to 8 reps, and I'll target 16 sets per week. And the way I divide things up is this. I think this is the simplest way: is a push day, a pull day, and a leg day, and I'll just do the push day and the pull day a couple times a week. That's what I do, and I'm really simple about it. Like my push day is bench, and I'll do 7 to 8 sets of bench, aiming for 7 to 8 reps, a weight that will only allow me to do 7 to 8 reps. We talked about my pull-up day, and I just do squats for leg day. But you have to switch things up every 12 weeks or so because your body gets used to things. So instead of bench, I might switch it up to like a dumbbell chest press instead,
Okay. So basically you're saying that a set consists of a set number of reps.
Yes.
Because I remember coming across a different school of thought where a set is defined by your time under tension, where like if you are hitting between 40 to 60 seconds of tension, like actually pushing your muscles, then that is the window where you're gonna get like get to diminishing returns. So like if you're doing a bench press
Right.
and you're trying to bench more than 60 seconds, then you start getting diminishing returns. And the thought behind that is that if you are, because you can do 8 reps,
Right.
you can do it really fast. You can do like with really poor form,
Right.
and you can do that all within 20 seconds. And theoretically, you're not under tension for that long.
Right.
So I guess there's kind of a balance between making sure that you have the optimal tension with the optimal amount of reps.
Yeah.
But any comment on that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I think a lot of that, like you said, is form. You know, I think if you're doing an exercise with really good form, you're going to also have optimal amount of tension time under there. But that's a really cool idea. I've never heard of that. And
So
actually,
what is optimal form then?
yeah, so it's going to be different for each exercise. But for example, it's going to be hard to explain without.
What I understand is that you go hard into your contraction and then you tense at the very top of the contraction.
Yeah.
And then you slowly let down. And then you go hard again and then you slowly let down.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah. I mean, there's also stuff, there are certain things to keep in mind also, like to protect. You first, do no harm, right? Not just in medicine, but also in exercise. I had a couple shoulder injuries that really put me back with my bench. And that's because, for me specifically, there's a bursa. A bursa is like a space with fluid that sort of cushions joints. The subacromial bursa gets really aggravated in bench and in pull-ups. So I always keep in mind when I'm benching, not just that, but I pretend like I'm bending the barbell, and that activates my lats and it frees up some of that subacromial space from the bursa. And then I'll go into it and I'll lock in. But even now, even when I do that, I still have days where I'm just like, my shoulder is not 100%, you know, or how that form as it pertains to pull-ups. Like you can be in a dead hang, right? And like your arms are getting pulled towards your ears, and that's putting a lot of pressure on your shoulders also. So there's a thought that you activate your back and that'll open this up, you know. And in general, not using momentum is good form.
So you want to get full range of motion too, right?
Yeah, greater range of motion will activate more muscle fibers.
Okay. And then what about your breathing?
Yeah, I exhale on whatever the resistance motion is. Yeah. And that's something that you have to experiment for yourself, because I think sometimes like I'll like exhale all at once and sometimes I'll exhale slowly. I think it's different for different exercises or different people. Yeah.
Okay.
Really interesting about the tension though. Never thought about it that way.
I have to look back to see where
It makes sense though, because on
from.
the tonal, it has like time under tension on there, right?
Yeah, a lot of trainers also
Yeah.
time your tension too when you're doing sets with them, like personal trainers.
Very cool.
So yeah, I think it matters. I just don't
For sure,
know
yeah.
the studies. But I just remember that when I discovered that and I started paying attention to time under tension more,
Yeah.
that I started feeling stronger and I started feeling stronger and seeing results faster. It's probably because my form was just really poor to begin with. Like I was trying to get through all the reps.
Yeah.
Because I don't really like when there's exercises I don't really enjoy.
Yeah.
I just try to get through the reps just to do it.
Right,
You know, like
right.
check the box. I exercise a day.
Right.
But when you actually go through the good form and get the tension and you get that hypertrophy, it feels pretty good. So.
Yeah. Oh, it feels so good when you actually feel sore the next day or two.
For people trying to get build strength in a natural way,
Yeah.
we could talk about routines,
Yeah.
like a simple routine for someone. Let's say a person is trying to get better for a sport. How would they approach that?
I mean, I think that just really depends on the sport.
Yeah. Probably.
Like someone who's trying to get in shape for basketball is going to be very different for football.
Right.
Yeah. I think endurance is pretty similar across the board, but
Yeah,
there's like different
absolutely.
muscle groups that they use. Yeah.
I think in general, like the sort of split we discussed, the push, the pull, and the leg, I think that would benefit pretty much any sport because, again, the focus is on function. Like in any sport, you're going to be doing some sort of pushing or pulling. You're going to be on your legs, you know? And to that end, like when you prioritize function, I think that just deems it more applicable to any sport. And endurance should be included in all of those. Yeah.
So one of the things I'm starting to believe more is that it's all about how much muscle you have. Because muscle isn't just about you looking good. Muscle also helps with your metabolism, and muscle also helps with your overall health.
Yeah. I do want to say one thing. Highly underrated exercise is walking, I think. In not med school, during my second year of residency, first year of ophthalmology, I got a treadmill desk, and I would knock out maybe a couple hundred pages of studying and walk like 20 miles, and I got super lean just from walking. And you could not.
Where do you get one of those?
So I got it off offer up, but it was like they sell cheaper ones, but the one I got was like $5,000, but I got it for like $500 because this guy was just trying to get rid of it.
You got it for $500?
Yeah. I love that thing, man. I was very sad when I had to part with it.
So it's a treadmill connected to a desk.
It was a treadmill connected to a desk, and the desk was motorized, and it had like LCDs. Like it even came with the monitors. I was like, "This is a great deal, man." Then I had like dual panel like LCDs, and I just study ophthalmology all day. I actually made like 5,000 Anki cards during that year, and like I crushed it that year. But anyhow, like you could like not change anything in your diet. Like, and this is for the person wanting to lose weight. You could not change anything in your diet, but just add like 8,000 steps a day, which is pretty easy to add like through
8,000 steps?
Yeah.
How far is that?
That's like, okay, when you think about it that way, it's like 3 to 4 miles, but you get
3 to 4 miles?
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you get like 8,000 steps a day, that's going to be an extra, we could look it up, but I want to say probably 500-600 calories burned. And that would be your deficit there without changing what you eat, you know? And walking is so easy to just do, you know? And it's good for you. It's good for your mental health, you know? It could be as simple as parking at the end of the parking lot rather than in front of your building. It could be as simple as setting an alarm on your phone for the last 5 minutes of the hour and just walking a little bit. If you do that for like 8 hours, so 8 times 5, that's 40 minutes of walking. That 40 minutes of walking, I want to say would be like 4,000 or 5,000 steps there, you know, and that's as simple as just setting an alarm on your phone. So I think walking is a hugely beneficial thing that is easy on your joints, that can lead to like a lot of calories burned, as well as benefits for your mental and physical health. It's something easy you can implement.
Yeah, I know that a lot of companies in Silicon Valley, they do these meetings where they just walk together because the thought that is walking helps you think more creatively, think outside the box.
Interesting.
Because like when you think about focus, there's like 2 different types. There's like diffuse mode, where you're kind of like, you're just thinking about a lot of different things. You're letting your ideas kind of like mingle together. And there's like, I forget what the other term is, but it's like you're very focused. And so you're like narrowing in on one important idea.
Yeah.
So you get a balance between diffuse and focus. And so these company meetings, or these tech companies, they just walk out in groups and they just kind of discuss ideas together and get their juices flowing. So it's like, it's good for being creative. And then I remember reading about Wendy Suzuki. She's a neuroscientist who does studies and shows how walking or aerobic exercise in general helps improve your memory, and it helps you with preventing memory decay, because I guess for some reason walking strengthens your hippocampus, and so it's like protective for like Alzheimer's and stuff like that.
Cool.
I think exercise in general is what she found.
Exercise in general,
Strengthens the hippocampus.
yeah.
One more thing to add to the benefits of walking and how easy it is to implement. I also know that there have been some studies to show that people who walk directly after a meal, it actually also curbs the insulin drop that would lead to like a post-meal slump and a food coma. So sometimes like even like a 20-minute walk directly after a meal can like save your productivity.
Oh, that's great.
Just in case like you tend to crash really hard after meals and stuff. So just like implementing a short walk, maybe just like walking to get food and then walking back to where you're working, that could be good enough to keep you going.
Or if you go out and eat somewhere, just walk around at the mall or something like that, at the shopping center before you go home. So yeah, walking has a lot of benefits. The thing about walking is that if you're trying to add 8,000 steps a day, that takes so much time. How much time is that?
Well, I mean, yes, it does, but it all adds up, you know, like each step goes into the bank, you know?
Right.
So you don't have to set apart an hour of walking in the morning or in the middle of the day or after work, but an hour of walking, I want to say is like 6,000 steps. Okay. Yeah. So you can either do the whole 5-minute thing where you're going to get 40 minutes, the 5-minute timer, or the last 5 minutes of every hour timer to get an extra 40 minutes of walking in. And that'll also just help with productivity also. Or you could just get a walk in the morning and just kind of think about what you're going to accomplish that day.
Yeah. Back to our minimum threshold is like 30 minutes of walking 5 days a week is great.
This might not be the most practical solution if you want to walk more, but you could just get a dog too. It doesn't have to be walked. So you got a dog.
Absolutely.
You have no choice, but you got to get your steps in.
That's why some people get dogs.
That's probably not the best reason to get a dog, but if it will help push your parents to buy you a dog or to get a dog, that's a reason. It's good for your actual for exercise.
Or if you want your parents to walk more, get them a dog.
Exactly. I tried. They refused.
Yeah, I remember because we used to go and watch movies a lot. And this one time we went to watch, I think it was Avengers or something. And we were going to pick you up.
Yeah.
And we were like, where are you at right now? And you're like, you were walking. You walked like 5 miles for us to like pick you up.
I remember that.
On the way to the movies. And then afterwards, we were like, hey, we can just drop you off. And you said, no, I'm good right here. I'm going to walk home.
Yeah.
And like, dude, it's like 4 miles from your house.
Yeah.
But you were just so into walking that you
No, walking is great. I mean,
motivated.
people who live in big cities, something to definitely consider is to just get rid of the car. It'll save a lot of money, first of all, and then just walk to this train station. Or when I lived in the Bay for a while in San Francisco, like I would just walk everywhere and then take the BART home or something like that. But I was just getting my exercise without even like realizing. It's just a way easier way to implement than not really practical in Southern California because
everything's so spread apart.
Transportation kind of blows here.
Right.
But if that is an option, that's another great way to just implement more exercise into your life.
Yeah.
And that obviously all that counts. All the walking counts as aerobic if you do it quick enough. Or are you saying that just in general?
Just in general, I don't think it counts as aerobic because your heart rate is. I mean, for some people, their heart rate will go up.
If you walk for long enough, I think your heart rate is just gonna go up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then for people who are a little older, walking is good for your bones.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like a small, lightweight person, then walking is very healthy.
It's really for older folks. It's really like a gauge of how functional they are. In the hospital, one of the most common tests that we use for elderly folk is the get up and go test. Like, are they able to stand up over a chair, walk down the hall and back without running out of breath, or their heart like passing out? That's like something that they do for CHF or pretty commonly to see like are you out of breath by the time you get back to this chair?
Right.
And that's really just like a predictor of your quality of life.
I think in the elderly population, walking is really like a fountain of youth. You know, if you're walking and you're staying active, even just from a mental health standpoint for the elderly population, you know, but joints wise, it's not high impact or anything.
Yeah, our grandpa, he had Our grandpa had a heart attack when he was like in his early 60s or something. I forget. 61. And he had like a triple bypass. It was like a super severe heart attack.
Wow.
And after that, after he got home from the hospital, he started walking every day. And so I forget, it was like 1 to 3 miles a day or something. And so he continued to live for 30 plus years after that.
That's amazing.
After having a bypass,
A triple
bypass surgery.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, walking for him, N of 1, but
Yeah.
it prolonged his life.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Talking about other solutions so we can think of for aerobic exercise for the people who, because I do want to touch on this one topic that we kind of touched on a little bit before but didn't really get into.
Yeah.
Which is the people who don't exercise or they're looking to improve their performance in any context at all, but they might feel embarrassed, might feel ashamed of the way they look, so they don't want to go to the gym. Or they won't go to the gym because they're embarrassed that everyone there is a lot stronger than them. There's a lot of fear of looking bad or looking too, ugly or fat to be in the gym.
Right.
And so they won't go. And are there other alternatives that they can do besides just walking or running? I think a good one would be like dancing. I don't know if that's like a possible avenue. Or,
why not? Yeah.
But that is a big thing I know for people who struggle to go to the gym, is just they don't feel comfortable going to the gym.
Yeah. Every time I see someone in the gym who is getting after it, it makes me happy. Like these people, like, no excuses, you know. But I do see how that would be sort of daunting and potentially a source of embarrassment.
I mean, they got to realize everyone starts like them.
Yeah.
No one's born like ripped and shredded.
Right.
Of course not. But I could see how that is a big hurdle to get over.
Definitely.
And how would you help someone overcome that first step?
I know a lot of people who don't feel that way. And I think if you do feel that way about going to the gym, it probably reflects an overall, like a more general way that you think about yourself, not just
Part
at the
of
gym.
it is,
just deeper down.
Exactly.
Just something with your confidence or self-esteem that needs addressing, probably.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I would say to that person, do what you can. Concentrate on nutrition, because 80% of it is nutrition. And especially if you are significantly overweight, the weight loss should be at a more rapid pace than someone who is already pretty fit. So do what you can to stay active, whether that be walking when you can, whether that be, playing the Wii and doing anything active, like
Sports.
VR.
Yeah.
That's another alternative we didn't talk about.
Really doing anything you can and concentrating on your mental health and your nutrition, I think, will go a long way.
Now I remember that I was watching this podcast with ZDoggMD and Dr. Sinha, and he was saying, because this guy runs a metabolic health clinic, and he was like trying to help people lose weight using like glucose monitoring. So he said that if you walk on your tippy toes, then you burn more energy, because apparently your calf muscles, soleus, is like, he called it like the workhorse of your body. And so if you walk on your tiptoes more often, then you can burn more energy.
Wow.
So he was trying to get a lot of his patients and a lot of people around in the hospital, like when you're just like going around computers, charting or seeing patients, to try to walk on your tiptoes and trying to contract that calf muscle. It's like a very simple and easy thing to do. You don't have to like change much during your day, but it gives you a lot of return for free. I thought it was pretty cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'll give that a shot.
And my calves are pretty small, so I need to get them. But the funny thing was that during the interview, he was saying like, yeah, I was actually on my tiptoes, like contracting my calf muscles during this entire podcast, just under the table. So, I mean, he believes it.
Yeah. I'd be afraid of getting like a Charlie horse, though. So uncomfortable.
The third bucket, which people are trying to get a physique, to look more aesthetic, get a beach bod, lose weight.
Right.
because there is a desire to get more self-confidence. What would be the easiest way to start that? What is like the high yield, productive way to start looking better?
I think it's gonna depend on each person. Like, is this person overweight, and this person needs to lose fat, or is this person really light and doesn't have a lot of muscle, but also doesn't have a lot of fat and needs to build muscle? So I think that'll depend on the situation that person is in.
Isn't building muscle the answer for both scenarios? It's always about building muscle, right?
Always want to be building muscle.
Like even someone who's obese, the first thing that they should do is start building muscle, right?
Yeah, I think in a person who's obese, they're going and they start working out, and even in a caloric deficit, they'll be losing fat. They'll probably be building muscle if they've just been sedentary and they start to become physically active. But I think you're right. I think that lifting weights or some sort of resistance training will be a mainstay of either of those people. Yeah.
So why is it bad to skip leg day?
I think one of the reasons that it's bad to skip leg day is because your legs just have so much muscle mass in them. So training your legs and growing that specific muscle group will lead to much more muscle gains, and that will lead to more calories burned because muscle burns a lot of calories. It'll make it easier to maintain a good body composition and a lower body fat percentage. Having more muscle will increase your basal metabolic rate, the baseline amount of calories that you're always burning. So building up large muscle groups like legs, like your chest, will increase your basal metabolic rate because you'll have more muscle that's burning more calories and more fat.
In terms of, where were we? Aesthetics? Oh yeah, so leg day is a very good place to start.
Yeah, I think so.
Have you heard of something called like mirror muscles? It's like the muscles that make you look good when you look in the mirror. That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
Chest, shoulders, biceps, probably.
Yeah.
I'm talking from a male perspective right now.
Right.
When I think about, as a male, when I'm trying to get like a good body, that usually involves abs, right? Or I guess for both genders,
Right.
There's this thing about abs that make it seem like, oh, this person definitely works out.
Yeah. I knew this one guy in med school, super jacked. He looked like a G.I. Joe action figure. But that dude never did abs. All he did was compound exercises.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Chest.
A lot of people
back.
say that.
Well, yeah, because your core is used in most compound exercises.
Right.
If you do squats, you're using abs. If you do pull-ups, you're using abs.
Exactly.
If you do bench press, you're using abs. If
Right.
you're doing them properly, I guess.
Absolutely. With good form, all these compound exercises will be working your abs, and will be working your abs every time you train because they're all using it, and your abs are always under stress, under duress. So that's why if you do decide to just do ab work, you could do it every day because it's one of those muscles that's always under stress, under load.
But the thing about abs, like if you want to get your abs to show, is it more about removing the fat that's covering it? Because your abs can only get so big, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that if the focus is on abs, then the first thing to discuss is nutrition.
Nutrition.
Yeah. Yeah,
For sure.
Anything else?
I don't think I'll just say this other thing about abs. Like, I don't think crunches are a good exercise. I think anything that activates your abs from like the lower end of your abs is going to be better. You know, like what are those called where you're hanging?
Standing leg lifts.
Yeah, like leg lifts and stuff. Yeah.
Those are really good.
Yeah.
hanging leg lifts.
Rock climbing in general is crazy
Yeah.
on your abs.
Yeah. I miss climbing.
Yeah, I miss climbing too, man.
You don't climb anymore?
Not as much as I used to. There's one thing that we could also, if we're circling back to compounding workouts or exercises that help you lift heavier things, I have heard, and I can't cite studies, but that grip strength is very, very important in
Yes.
terms of lifting heavier weights or just heavier things in general.
Yes. That is based on studies.
Because I remember there's a really cool video I watched of one of my favorite rock climbers where they did like a grip test, like they just squeeze. What are they called? Do you know those devices I'm talking about?
Yeah, where it like gives you like the newtons that you squeezed or whatever.
And the rock climbers are some of the strongest people because their grip strength is so high, but that like directly correlates to heavier lifts, having more grip strength. So that's like another like pretty underrated area that a lot of people who think about building muscle kind of neglect is like their grip strength as opposed to just like the actual weight that they're lifting.
Yeah, they have like these things that you could put on barbells, right? To like make it fatter, like fat grips or something. So you like to strengthen your grips.
Yeah. Anything that's harder to wrap your hand around is going to be more tiring for your grip.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had these friends from med school that were like really into working out, and they said that one of the easiest, simplest ways to increase your power is to buy those grip workouts. It's just basically something you can squeeze.
Yeah.
And that can give you like extra few reps for every set. Wow. And they said every time you're on your off day and you're resting, then you work on your grip. And then when you get back in the gym, then you lift, and then you're off, work on your grip, and it's just back and forth like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing that you can do, I haven't done this, but I know people who have done this, is like they get a pot filled with like rice and they stick their hands in, and then they
they have that at the rock climbing gyms.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they have buckets of rice.
Oh man,
I thought it was for like recovery. Is that for grip?
It's kind of for both. I think it's more for I think it's more for grip actually.
Yeah,
which is interesting. Yeah, they have those at the rock climbing gym a lot.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Any more like tricks like that? I totally forgot about that grip stuff.
Yeah, I didn't even know about like this. I haven't read on the science behind that or anything. I know like a benefit. Like I have one of those guitar grip things, like the ones to get your grip stronger for guitar.
I think it's more. Yeah, that's a different kind of grip strength. Yeah, it's like calluses for your fingertips.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can do that when you're just sitting at the desk or whatever, or you're driving or something.
Yeah.
So what about?
I just say that that rest is really important. Overtraining is really easy to do.
Let's talk about rest.
Yeah, I mean, when you're doing resistance training, you are physically damaging your muscles, right? So you have to allow your body time to repair the damage that you incurred, but also grow stronger in the process. So being careful not to overtrain is very important. And overtraining can look like your lifts going down in weight. It can look like you just being tired or exhausted all the time, or it can look like injury. So it's really important to be cognizant to not overtrain. Yeah. So I think that shooting for like 10 sets a week is good. 10 to 15 sets. Yeah.
One of the most underrated things about training is not getting enough sleep. Because on our channel we talk about if you don't sleep enough, then studying is not being. Because on our channel we talk about when you're trying to study, you have to make sure to sleep. Because sleep is when you consolidate all the knowledge and memory that you acquire during the day.
Right.
So it's the same thing with working out. If you are going really hard at the gym and then you don't sleep that night, then you're basically losing all your gains too. You're not giving your muscles a chance to regenerate and heal and be ready for the next day.
Yeah.
It's the same concept.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly.
Thanks for joining us again for another talk.
It's fun, man. This was a good topic.
Yeah, I think we have a lot more interesting conversations we can have about exercise.
Yeah.
Itself, recovery, injuries from it.
Oh yeah.
Stretching, another big topic.
A lot of stories about how we
We talk about Indian clubs too next time.
What?
So every time my shoulder gets messed up, I use these things called Indian clubs. I was gonna make a video on it, but maybe next time I'll just bring it. I'll show you guys.
Bring these things in.
I'm down to see those.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. Show notes are going to be in the description as usual, and we'll see you next week.
Lately, memories are fresh on my